Hi, I'm Anthony from Sydney Backyard Veggies. Out in the patch again. Today I need to do a lot more catching up on my veggie patch after coming back from my holidays earlier in the week. And today I'm going to be planting out some more spring veggies. Today actually I'm going to be trying to direct seed my first round of cucumbers. As I showed you before, my planting that my dad did for me while I was on holidays sort of struggled. So now that we're in mid-October, it's probably the right time now to actually start direct seeding. The soil will be warm enough for me to plant out and germinate these seeds. I'm looking at direct seeding some cucumbers in this patch here. This is the old cauliflower patch, and during the week I've been progressively harvesting the heads here, and most of them are done except for this last one, which is still a bit small, but I may just bite the bullet and clear it. I've been putting 2 rows of cucumbers in this spot, and the idea is I'll plant 2 rows of cucumbers and then continue on planting more beans straight down the patch. I still need to plant my stewing beans, my bloody beans, and more French beans. The broccoli, funny enough, I've been harvesting that, and I started harvesting my first heads this morning, and it looks like most of it will be harvested by week's end, so that makes it perfect timing for me to be able to continue on with those spring plantings of beans. I'm going to go and turn over this bed over, but before I do that, I want to actually take you over to my cabbages. I've just had another look at my cabbages, and I've found 2 heads that had split this morning, which is a sign of them bolting. Thinking I could get a bit more time out of them, but I reckon I'm going to be, over the next 2 or 3 days, most of these are going to bolt. So I've made the call. I'm going to harvest probably the 5 heads here. I've got 2 other heads that I've harvested already that had bolted, and hand them out to workmates. But I'll go and harvest those now, and then I'll go over and start working on the cucumbers. These cabbages have been doing great over the past few months as they've been growing in size, but just as the daylight gets longer, they're gonna undoubtedly bolt. And you can just see, the way I can tell it's starting to bolt is if you can see that the leaves are just starting to do that initial tear at the top, and that's just the flower bud inside forcing its way out, and it will start progressively splitting. So I need to get onto them early so that I don't end up with a whole bunch of split heads. Just finished harvesting those cabbages. Got myself 8 heads at the moment, and I just wanted to show you what I mean when I'm saying that they're starting to split. As you can just see there, the leaves are starting to rip, and that's a sure sign that the head's going to split. Still got 3 in the ground, and these ones don't look too bad still. I may have to harvest them during the week, but these 3 hopefully can last to the end of the week. That way I can get rid of that glut. I'm looking for options to plant other veggies in this spot now. I've still got my silver beet there, which seemed to be doing still okay, so I probably won't be looking at planting corn like I was hoping, but definitely I'll be trying to see if I can plant more. It's going to have to be more beans, potentially more cucumbers as well. My second round of cucumbers will be here, but I'm going to concentrate at the moment first on my first plant of cucumbers, which is going in this spot. I'm going to harvest that head of cauliflower, dig this bed over, and I'll start forming up the rows. Just finished turning over that bed, and I'm just going to straighten it out a bit, just get rid of all those weeds and the like. I'm going to add 2 bags of cow manure to the bed. I'd like to add a lot of organic material at the start of each planting. It's a bit of a trick that I do to progressively build that soil up. Now normally I will put down homemade compost, but I've run out, so the next best thing is bag manure. I prefer cow manure. You can also use chicken manure, but I find if you are planting seedlings directly into chicken manure that's just been laid, it tends to burn the plants, so I tend to stick to cow manure where I can. In addition to that, I'm going to add a container load of chicken manure pellets, dynamic lifter, or in this case it's AgriBoost pellets, and some dolomite lime, and a little bit of potash, again just to add that to the soil. I find that cucumbers do well with all 3 amendments, and I will come in the later stages and add a lot more nitrogen to those cucumbers as they're growing. Again, cucumbers need a lot of water and they need a lot of nitrogen fertilizer, so using chicken manure pellets for my context works really well. So I'm going to spread these amendments out on the bed, mix them into a top layer of the topsoil with my hoe, and then I'll start forming up the rows with my rake at that 60 centimeter spacings, and I'll be looking at putting 2 rows down the bed. So I finished setting out those rows, and I'm setting them out at 60 centimeter spacings, and that's generally what I like to do for my cucumbers, and it gives me a chance to install the trellis, string trellis, and get them growing strong. Now I am going to be planting a variety called Amal. This is a new variety that I found from a new seed supplier online. Haven't planted this variety before, but there's good reports of it. I have in previous seasons, especially last year, planted Craig and another variety called Kasib, but I'm like to try using new varieties from new suppliers to see if I could find something a bit more suited to my backyard. Before I plant out my seeds, I like to plant my seeds in a watered row. I won't plant my seeds after. What I'll do first is actually fill up the trench with a lot of water, and then I plant into that. It just saves you the hassle of trying to water your seeds in after the fact and risking dislodging the seeds. So just filling up that trench and using this opportunity now to really define that trench, making sure that it's full of water and giving it clear lines, and then giving it a couple of minutes for the water to seep in and to wet that soil. I'm planting out the seeds. I'm just going to do a shallow depression, just that much. Get that rock out of the way. I don't like to plant these seeds too deeply. Just finds it hard to germinate if you do plant too deeply. These are my seeds, and I'm putting 2 seeds in each hole. And what I'm going to do there is actually in an order of about 20 centimeters apart, which is about here, just using the back of the trowel. I'm going to plant my second 2 seeds. Now, for those of you who've been watching me for a while will know that I've got a real strong preference for vermiculite. Buy this stuff in 100 litre bags, so I've got plenty of it, and I like to use this to cover up my seeds and just put in a little handful on each plant. I find is perfect. Now you can use, I could use the soil adjacent to do that. I'm going to try to plant in the order of 7 spots here. I think I can get 7, and once I've planted it, I'll show you the final result. Just planted out those 2 rows, and I got 16 positions planted out in total. Expecting these to germinate in 5 to 7 days, especially if the weather does warm up. The soil is warm enough now for them to germinate that fast. And in the next few weeks, I'll show you how I come around and trellis and maintain these cucumbers. I will be planting a second crop of cucumbers back where those cabbages were that I'm pulling out, and I might be doing that in about 3 weeks' time. It's coming over to my southern beds, and this is where I've planted my first planting of corn seedlings, and I planted these just before I left, about 2 weeks before I left for my holiday. And I still have some of my last planting of broccoli in this spot. These are seedlings that are just left over when I planted at the main patch, so I've got to harvest them at the moment as well. And before I do that, I'll kind of show you how my corn plants are looking. This is my corn patch, first planting. Planted this out about 4 weeks ago as seedlings, and I have a video posted previously where I showed you how I planted them. The variety is called Max, and generally speaking they're looking really good. They're putting on a lot of size, but this is a really windy spot, and what I'm finding is I've had a few get knocked over, and you can see that and there, that one's died, and there's probably another one just over there that I've lost as well. I had to hill them before I left because of the wind, and what I did was I just moved the soil up quickly before I went on my holidays and to try to support them. But they look like they're doing okay, but they do need another round of supports. The broccoli is absolutely beautiful, and you can see it's much bigger than I expect to harvest. I don't expect to get them that big. I'd rather harvest them just a bit earlier than that, but they're looking fine. It'd be good to get rid of these because they are overcrowding the corn. It's finished our harvest, and beautiful looking broccoli. So they should have been harvested probably 3 or 4 days ago, but they still kept their shape, which is actually quite good. They're just starting to spread out a bit here, but that shouldn't be a problem. Add these to the harvest. Now with my corn, I need to do a little bit more work on these because the wind's actually been quite strong over the last few days by the look of things, and they are starting to knock these plants around as they're getting taller. So I need to hill that soil around the base. Did a quick hilling session before I left, literally just with the hoe, but I need to do that now. And it's a good time for me to also add just a little bit of fertilizer. Before I hill these plants, I'm gonna add a little bit of chicken manure pellets. I used either Dynamic Lifter, Agri Boost, or any other one that you can really find from the nurseries. And I'm just going to be adding in the center here just a little bit per plant. Now you can potentially put them up here at the higher points. Not a big issue, but I'm just going to continue in through putting the manure for each of the plants, and then I'll start hilling the soil around those seedlings. And using my hoe, just going to move that soil again from the center to bring it up hard up against the corn. And it's just progressively bringing that soil close as I can to the base of the plant, trying to really add that support around the trunk of the corn plant. Just to bring you in closer to show you what I've done, just got that soil hard up against the base, and it's really just trying to support them. I'm actually in quite a windy location, so I have grown corn in this location previously and it was fine, but this season's been quite windy, so I'm finding that I'm having to support my corn a lot more to keep it upright. But as you can see, it's looking a lot better now. They've got the high ridges, and I will water the plants in the trough below. I'm just trying to make sure. Feel free to put your foot there to really support those plants, but I'm hoping that this will keep them upright. And I will come back in another few weeks, hopefully add another round of fertilizer. Corn absolutely loves nitrogen, so the more nitrogen you give them, the better. And hopefully they should be producing in about 6 weeks time. The next thing I need to do is to do a bit of work on my jalapeno patch. Got my 8 plants here, and I had interplanted them with a bit of choice some. And before I left, they were just still tiny plants, but they've actually now outgrown the space and they're actually starting to compete with the jalapenos. As you can see, choice some has all started flowering, and it might be a bit too old now, and I believe the stems might start coming a bit too fibrous, but I'll see how they go. But I've got my jalapenos here looking okay. Some of them look really good, and you can start seeing that there's just a little bit of flowers just starting to form up, but some of them are still quite small. And I think it's what's happening is that these plants are starting to outcompete. A lot of weeding needs to be done, and I do have a lot of golden purslane growing through it. I've got to look at relocating these and making up a patch, but I need to harvest those choice sums, and then depending on how the rest of the jalapenos look, I'm going to go add a bit more fertilizer to really get them going, and also try to relocate some of these purslanes. I'll try to make a patch of them somewhere as well. Just coming over to the jalapeno patch, and you can see the plants are doing okay, just need a lot of work. So I'm going to be removing a lot of this grass, and I find this grass is very annual. It just comes up, this kind of grass comes up as soon as it warms up in my garden, and it's a constant battle to stay on top of them, but I'll just get them at this stage, clear them out. But what I'll be doing is these seedlings here, these are golden purslane, and we use this as a summer green essentially, and it self-seeds in my backyard. I prefer the golden purslane variety rather than the wild or flat leafed variety, because this actually stands upright and you can harvest it, and we use it as a salad green. We freshen a lot of salads during the summertime. It's more of a lettuce replacement. They're very easy to transplant, and what I will be doing is transplanting a lot of these seedlings, and I'm going to do a little row just here at the back, just across the back there, and then potentially across here, just to make a bit of a purslane patch, and then we'll just harvest it as needed throughout the season. Transplanting these purslanes is quite easy, just using my trowel, just lifting it. They're quite durable and resilient, so you can be a bit rough with them, but I try to get a little bit of soil around the base. And coming across to my new patch, just dug it over just to get rid of all those weeds, and just dig in a small hole. Try to space them at about 15 centimeters apart, and just bringing the soil back and just squeezing the soil around the base. Now these are very durable, so you can be a little bit rough with them. And what I'm going to continue doing is just planting it at 15-20 centimeter spacings, just all the way up the bed. Just planted out my first patch of golden purslane. They're looking a bit worse for wear now, but they will settle in fine. Just keeping up the water to them, and I'll come through later on in about 2 weeks time and do their first harvest just by pitching out the heads of the plants, and these will essentially become a big bush. And you'll be, if you plant out 10 plants that I've got here, you'll end up having purslane for all season. So happy they're in the ground. They can be eaten raw, in salads, they can be cooked, a bit like spinach. Really good for you, full of antioxidants and omega-3s. But I will come in later videos, show how I use it and how I harvest it. But coming across to my jalapenos, now I'm going to come through and just really clean up all those weeds and pull out all the mess. So I just finished weeding that, and it was a quick weeding session, just enough to knock off a lot of those small weeds. And look, I'll come through every week and I'll give it another quick run with my wire weeder. Now the jalapenos actually still quite small, and some of them are a bit yellow, and even though some of them actually are starting to flower, I still wanted to put on a bit of size before they start fruiting. So I'm going to be giving them another feed of liquid nitrogen fertilizer using Power Feed. It's my standard one I go to, but you can pick anything with high levels of nitrogen at about 12%. I'm going to apply it to the plants. I've got my watering can full. I'm just going to apply it to all the plants, and I'll probably do it this week and next week just to really get them a bit of a boost and try hopefully get the yellowing out of the leaves. Just using a watering can and just progressively watering the soil around the plants. And before I wrap up this video, I'm just in the back part of my main patch, and I'm just planting out this season's basil. What I'm going to do is actually plant 2 rows here, and I've just dug over this the soil, and I've added some chicken manure. It's actually still quite sandy, the soil here, legacy soil from when I first formed up this veggie patch. I've added half a bag of cow manure in this spot, and I'm planting out my seedlings. And I'm planting them out at about that 15 centimeters apart, and I'm looking at trying to get 2 rows about 8 seedlings. In planting these seedlings, I just bought a punnet from my local hardware store, and what I'll be looking at doing is just trying to separate these seedlings and actually just get the largest of the seedlings, and I'll be planting them out. And they're quite durable. You can be quite rough with them, and these seedlings here, they look, actually probably 3 of them look quite strong, so I'll be planting these 3 out. Just turn them across, just separating them, trying to see if I can get as much of that root ball as I can on the plant. Now they will struggle a bit in the first few days once you plant them out, but generally speaking they should be fine for about a week. And in planting out seedlings, it's just a matter of digging a hole, putting a seedling in, pressing the soil, and we're done. Hoping once I get the irrigation on these plants, they'll start thriving, and I'll give them their first round of sulfate of ammonia in about 3-4 weeks to really get them going. I find basil does really well. The more nitrogen you give it, the better. And constant harvesting, I'll make sure that I'll continue to come and pinch out the tops of those seedlings of the plants every 2nd week. So I'm hoping that's going to be great for basil this season. I like to make a lot of pesto, I like to freeze a lot of it for the year, so it's going to get us an early start on my basil crop. Thank you very much everyone for joining me in this video. I really appreciate all the support, and I hope to see you in the next one.